NRL team list for round 10 are in, and we are here to react to them. Welcome back, guys. I'm Longy here from The Casual Athlete. We have Monty here from Quickfire Fantasy. And I'll tell you what, I had a quick skim through these team lists. They are cooked. Mate, these coaches are losing the plot.
I don't know what's going on, whether that's Origin around the corner, the bye rounds, but they're losing.
Mate, it's not good. It's not good. And just quickly, too, shout out Rob Evans, listening from Japan. We love that dedication. We've got JJ Legends listening from Antarctica. And where is he here? We got Polly NZ listening from Mars. So, look, I guess he was on that flight with Katy Perry. Just didn't come back. But yeah, congrats to you guys for listening from a long way away. Now, let's just make sure everything's working. Could you speak again?
15-1-2, Team List Tuesday. Might check.
Yeah, I think you're all good, mate. You're all good. So let's keep rolling through. Let's turn to these team lists here. We've got first game, Eels and Dolphins. And this one should be a good matchup. Two teams who haven't been completely convincing, but have had some really good moments. Both have really strong number sevens. Both with a bit to play for here and sort of really fighting for their seasons. And we've got Parramatta first, Isaiah Yongi at fullback. We have Simonson, Penasini, Russell, and Addo Carr in the back line there. Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses at the halves. Then we go through the forward pack. It's Jack Williams, Smith, Barlow. And then we have Gaima, Kautonga, and Hopgood in the back row. Interchange is Walker, Moretti, Samrani, and Dury. And the extended bench, there's Madison there, Josh Papali'i. A few guys that could pop up, but probably not going to be much of an impact there. So for Parramatta, a few things to talk about here. They do play round 12. So really, guys, the lens over the next couple of weeks is going to become the question of, does that player play in round 12?
Sorry, interrupt there, Long. We're just having some issues with my mic by the sounds of it. People are saying.
Try speaking again.
1-2, Team List Tuesday.
I think you should be all good.
Better?
Yeah, I think you should be all good. Anyway, let's keep rolling through. Let's keep bumping through. And for Parramatta, we've got pretty good matchup here. This should be a bit of a shootout. Should be a matchup where there are a few points on offer. But for Parramatta, I'm going to say in this back line, there's probably not too much you're looking at here. So that's the tough part here. I mean, look, Penasini's been getting cheap. It hasn't really shown kind of a bounce back. Bailey Simonson, he is in a spot where he had a bit of good form to start, but then sort of cooled off. Isaiah Yongi, he's a guy who's been held a bit longer, but outside of that, there's not too much to talk about here for Parramatta. Whereas on the Parramatta side of the ball, in the forward pack, because I'm going to skip past the halves too, I think. Like Brown and Moses, they just haven't really shown enough for us to jump on them either. Then for the forward pack here, we got Williams, Smith, Parlour. Yeah, I mean, Junior had a big game. Junior had a big game this week, so pretty worth mentioning him. But really, again, it's tricky. They're a tough team to sort of back here. Like I'd look at a guy like Kautonga in most of our teams, and he sort of cooled off the last couple of weeks. So he's one that might not be, someone that we hold for that long. He might be a guy that we do move off before that point. Or Jermaine Hopgood, a couple of games in a row below 40 minutes here. Played 36 minutes last week. So again, for him, it's a question of minutes, right? And if he gets that rollback, Jermaine Hopgood, if he gets that 60-minute rollback, then he's going to be red hot. But until that point, it just becomes impossible to jump on him. So we can't really do that either. So for Parramatta, I'm pretty much cooling off on the rest of it here. Tuivasa, people have mentioned him. I believe he had that HIA, so he's probably out due to that HIA. So I wouldn't stress too much, guys. If you got Tuivasa, he is likely going to be back next week. Got that HIA issue. They've bought Samrani in. Now, Samrani was traditionally a center in reserve grade, but he's been playing a bit of back row in reserve grade recently. So could be an option in the back row. I'm guessing he might get some minutes to spell Charlie Gaima this week. And we'll see Dury and Moretti in the prop rotation and Dylan Walker sharing minutes with Hopgood, which is why Hopgood's minutes have been so low. So from my perspective, there's not really much to talk about with this Parramatta side. I mean, there's potential that Lomax does come back soon, but obviously he's on the extended bench here, so he won't be back this week at least. Probably more likely next week. Now jumping across the Dolphins here. For the Dolphins, we've got the Hammer at fullback. We've got Asako, Avarillo, Farmworth, and Bostock in the back line. Nick Reamer and Katoa in the halves, and then the forward pack we run to Molo, Donahue, Kafusi, Finafuaki, Lemuelu, and Gilbert in the forward pack. Interchange is Ray Stone, Nichols, Kerr, and O'Sullivan. And for the Dolphins here, again, it's a tricky one. I mean, they do have a pretty favorable bye schedule. A lot of us were hoping for Max Plath to pop up at some point here. And look, Plath isn't in the starting side. He's not on the extended bench either. The word last week was it's about 3 weeks away, so probably about 2 weeks away still for Max Plath. Ideally, you'd want him to play round 11, so next week, and lose a bit of cash. He's got to break even in the 70s and then get him in for round 12. But if he doesn't play next week, which looks quite unlikely, then I would say probably not going to be an option either. So, yeah, for the Dolphins, where do we go here? I mean, look, Hammer's going to play Origin. Jermaine Asako is in a different season. If we were a bit lower on, sort of cheap outside backs, I'd be recommending Asako. But I think this year it's just a bit of a luxury you don't need to have. Herbie Farnworth is one who a lot of people have. A few people were talking to me about selling Herbie Farnworth, which I think is absolutely crazy. You stick with Herbie Farnworth, you ride the wave there, and he's got Parramatta this week, who can leak a few points as well. Outside of that, Avarilla, Bostock, we're not jumping on them, Nikarima, Isaiah Katoa. The answer on Katoa is the same every week. He's rock solid. He's going to score you between sort of 40 and 75 points every week. He'll fluctuate a bit here and there, but my view on him isn't going to change whether he scores 70 or 40. He's the same guy. So a solid option without having that nuclear upside in my view. Then for the forward pack here, I mean, where are we going? Like Francis Molo's joined the team. Dan Safidi is still out of the side. Donahue's in there. So Jeremy Marshall-King, obviously, there's a bit of word that he was in doubt this week. It's a week-to-week situation, so you can't overreact and get Donahue either. Then, like Finafuyaki has had a little bit of form recently. Lemuelu, if he got the start consistently, would be interesting. But for Lemuelu, he will lose that spot when Plath comes back, right? And he's already sort of boosted his score up with a few try-scoring plays. So I'm sort of talking out of basically everyone here. But I look at this matchup, and I just don't think there's much to do for fantasy in terms of these teams. You could make a case for Herbie Farnworth is probably the one. And you could make a small case for Mitch Moses if you really wanted to as a real pod. But, I still think Moses should be selected for the Blues, but everything I'm hearing is that he probably won't be. Or maybe Cleary won't be instead. And I'm hearing that Luai has that 6 jersey locked up, which I'm kind of surprised by. I would have thought that a Moses-Cleary combo would have been the best one for the Blues. But hey, there's a reason I'm not the coach. So for this matchup, I'm going to go Herbie Farnworth as the interesting option there. Max Plath is one who's going to be out for too long, so really take him out of your plans. And then, Kautonga is one that you can hold on to. I've seen a few trades where we've been selling Kautonga as well, and I actually don't mind those options either. So that's how we're looking for Parramatta and the Dolphins. And let's just do a quick test here as we move to the next team. Monty, you want to try chatting again?
Testing 1, 2. Teamless Tuesday. Hopefully it's loud and clear.
Can you bring it right up to your face?
Right up to the face. Here we
go. And speak louder. Louder, mate. Louder.
Bit of chest.
Yeah.
Around 10 team lists.
There we go. I reckon you'll be sweet now. You'll be sweet. So let's keep rolling through these teams, and everyone just drop a message in the chats. Let us know how Monty's sound is looking there.
Better now, hopefully.
Yep. So we got the Knights and the Titans up next. And for the Knights, it was a bounce-back game. We talked about it a lot last week, and I've got to say I was relieved. I said it on the recap, but I was relieved that they popped off. Monty, by the way, while we're doing this, maybe jump on, grab another microphone for Mike 2 and test it out. So I'll keep rolling through with the Knights here. We've got Ponga, Schiller, Gagai, Best, Marzu in the back line. Then we've got Fletcher Sharp and Jack Cogger in the halves, so similar combo there. Fletcher Sharp fresh off his triple, which is absolutely sweet. For the forward pack here, Jacob Safidi, Phoenix Crossland, Leo Thompson. We have Dylan Lucas, Kai Pearce-Paul, and Tyson Frizzell. Interchanges Brayley, Croker, Elliott, and Brody Jones. So for the Knights here, I'm going to have a look at this and think, you got to look at this from the lens of the Knights are playing the Titans, and the Titans refuse to defend anything at all, ever. Like, they have just been the biggest fantasy gold mine, right? So we saw Jacob Carraz pump out 100-plus points. We saw Preston, even with the sin bin, pump out 70 points. Like, this has been a gold mine. So when you look at Newcastle now, I think you got to look at them and just think, hey, we're going to see some fantasy points from these guys this week. So when I'm looking at Newcastle, I'm thinking Callum Ponga, I'm thinking Bradman Best, Greg Marzu, Fletcher Sharp, and Dylan Lucas, and then by extension, Kai Pearce-Paul as well. So that's the set I'm looking at there. I guess the extension of that too, when we're looking outside of attacking stats, would be Jacob Safidi. So just keep an eye on that as well. Jacob Safidi is one who got a bit cheaper due to injuries and is due for a bounce back here too. So we look at Newcastle. I'm probably targeting Dylan Lucas. I'm thinking Dylan Lucas is the option this week. Covers that center spot, but obviously we're probably going to lose Preston for round 12. So I now have a spot available in my edge back row spot for round 12, and I'm thinking that Dylan Lucas might be the guy to fill that spot for me. So I'm probably popping Dylan Lucas into the back row in round 12. Otherwise, it's going to be my center. He'll be there next to Herbie Farmworth, so it's a crazy center pairing. And then guys like Toya will be in the loophole spot instead, as well as Jackson Purdue. So that's what I'm thinking. Lucas is probably the option I'm going to go for. But if you don't have Fletcher Sharp is the exact same option as last week. He's been on our buy list for a couple of weeks now. He is one I got 2 weeks ago. He can score a hat trick, or he can score, 40, 50 points in pretty pure base stats as well. His lowest scores are around that sort of 30s area. So I love his base, and I think he's got massive upside, as we saw in that game with the 76-point game. So I'm a big fan of him. Ponga, he was number 1 on our hold list last week, and I'm glad he showed out for you guys. And he's got a matchup here against the Titans, who really, really don't defend. So I think Ponga is due another big game. But I do think it'll be the ball runners who show out more. So if I was predicting this one, I would say the Knights get up in a pretty solid win. I'm going to say Ponga, he'll get over for some nice attacking stats. But I think with the rib injury and with the way he's been playing recently, I don't expect him to be taking on the line as much as you'd hope. I think it's going to be the guys who run the ball who are going to show out in this one. So Bradman Best, Greg Marzu, Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Lucas. I would predict that particularly Best, Sharp, and Lucas will outscore Ponga, but I think all of them are going to go 50+ in this game. So all great options there. I've got Sharp in my team. I'm probably getting Lucas. I don't think Lucas plays Origin, by the way. A lot of you guys are asking about that. I think he's not much of a chance for Origin, but I guess he does offer good center cover as well as the back row cover. But I just think they're going to go Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, who have never let us down the Origin arena, and then we're going to go Hudson Young for that extra spot. So that's where I'm seeing the Knights panning out. Lucas, red hot option. Also with the Knights too, if you have a few Knights players, don't stress about having too many of them. They don't have a buy until round 18. So nothing to worry about there. It's a major buy round as well. You've got plenty of time to deal with it. I'd run a bunch of Knights players. Now, Monty, let's see if your microphone's running here.
All right, third time's a charm. Let's hope we just switched the mics. Hopefully it's working now.
All right, guys, let us know if Monty's mic's coming through while we are going. Do you want to pop up a few questions just silently, and I'll answer them. So I'm looking at bringing in Leo Thompson. Leo's all right. Yeah, okay. You're out, mate. You're out today. You're just popping these up, popping the questions up for me. But yeah, for Leo Thompson, I would say that, I don't know, he was a really interesting option when they had all those injuries. But I just don't see huge value from him. They're not going to lose many guys due to Origin. I don't know. I don't see him as the big option there, but he could be a quality one. Probably a no for me when it comes to Leo Thompson. But if it does fit your team, he could be a decent option. Any other questions there you want to pop up? Cool. Longy, thoughts on Matt Croker? Great PPM. Yeah, not anymore. So Frizzell back, Jacob Safidi back, Adam Elliott back. All these guys really eat up all those minutes. So Matt Croker, as much as he did play great last week, had a really nice offload in that game. I will shout out to. He's one that probably won't be making anyone's fantasy sides at this point. A bit too expensive, and they don't lose any guys to Origin, so you don't get a boost through the Origin period either. And we got hold or sell Monty's mic. I mean, it's the same microphone. We're actually using the same mic setup. So it all comes through my output. So it should be good, but it's all right. We'll do some testing. And, you're a silent contributor this time around. I guess you'll be active in the chat. Any other questions here? Safidi, good cashy pod. Yeah, big time. So Safidi is a guy who should average in the low 40s. He's pretty consistently been that sort of low 40s guy. He's priced in the low 30s there. So he's about 10 points of value. He provides great coverage. My plan is to get Safidi at some point. I may look at it this week, potentially. I'm tossing up a few ideas, but yeah, Safidi this week could be a goal for me. And Jazz Tavanga as well, who we looked at earlier, and that lock spot too. Any other Knights there we want to talk about? Brimson trade. So for Brimo, yeah, you could. I mean, Brimson's very attack and stat reliant, and the Knights are really, really poor. So it's just going to be a case of The Titans are really poor. So it's a case of like a guy who, can he show out in a team that's really struggling? Does Jaden Campbell help him is probably the big question there. Now, let's jump into the Titans here next. And for the Titans, we've got DeGroot keeping his fullback spot there. Khan-Pereira, Kelly, Sami, and Fafita is the back line. Then we have Brimson, Campbell in the halves. Forward pack here is Fodawaker, Verrills, Campbell, Gillard in the front row. We've got Cleese Haas, Bo Firma, Tino Fatmasali. And then we've got Randall, Isaac, his brother there, Howe, and Pahulu on the bench. Now, for the Titans, bit of chat that Dave Fafita is out indefinitely. What I've heard is there's a bit of fighting between him and Des Hasler. That's not why he's out, but that's been going on. And that he's seeking urgent medical advice for something, which we don't know what it is. So the word is he's out indefinitely. I have no idea what's going on there. I think it's absolutely insane, by the way. As a footy fan in general, it's a simple game, right? If you're the Titans, you go, hey, Fafita, you're starting, play as many minutes as you can, run hard, break tackles. Yeah, you're going to miss a few tackles. You'll be a bit lazy in defense every now and then. So be it. I think the attacking output is worth it, especially for a side like the Titans. And if you're Dave Fafita, it's a simple game. Break tackles, run the ball hard, score tries. Easier said than done. But I just don't understand why this is so complicated. But it really feels like it should be pretty straightforward. So that's kind of how I see it. But yeah, a few of you guys are mentioning, ankle there. So that could be the deal. I mean, look, obviously I'm more talking about the infighting before this issue. Yeah, the surgery preseason there as well. Getting ankle checked. Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, if he's going to be looking for a new contract soon, then he probably wants to get that cleaned up while he's off the clock right now. Yeah, and this question here too, if Fafita wants to play Firma's side, Desi said get stuffed. Bo Firma's the better back rower right now. He's the better back rower as of today, on form and on recent history. So he can't take Bo Firma's spot. He's a secondary back rower in that Titans team, and he's the best secondary back rower in the comp, but that's what he's got to do. So, yeah, for Dave Fafita, I just saw this. I'm disgusted. Dave Fafita to Melbourne, he will show. I never want to see that. Never, ever say that again. Oh, Melbourne are already good enough. We don't need to see Dave Fafita on that team. Now, for the Titans here, there's a few guys who are actually kind of interesting. So we talked a bit about, guys like Murray Talangi, Tom Dearden, Jeremiah Nanai, right? And people are excited about them now and looking at them as buys. It's too late. They're too expensive. But you got to get on these guys early when they're completely out of form. So Brian Kelly, Alofi Khan-Pereira, like these are guys who I sort of look at and, they're not on the bottom of their sort of cash drop yet. But Brian Kelly has gotten really cheap and he's consistently been about a 500K guy. He might get down to sort of low 300s at some point. Kelly could be an interesting option we look at in a few weeks' time. Khan-Pereira, if the Titans get hot, which they haven't at all, then he could be an option as well. There are these guys that are getting cheap, and just keep an eye on these players is sort of what I'm saying. Like, Brian Kelly, if he gets the right price, could be a real smoky for you. Tomoka a few weeks ago was looking a bit like that as well. That's just what I'd be looking for there. But outside of that, Brimson, Campbell. Yeah, Brimson, I mean, you could sell Brimson. I'd be pretty happy with you guys selling Brimson. For Campbell, that's going to be a big question this week, and it's going to be a case of, do you want to buy Jaden Campbell? Now, my thoughts here are, too early. I think it is too early. And look, most of the time you're going to be okay. Most times, like 9 times out of 10, you'll be absolutely fine. You can run a guy like Jaden Campbell. You can, you'll survive. You'll be okay. But my worry here is he's going back from that syndesmosis injury. Jaden Campbell has had a bit of an injury history in the past. I just sort of think maybe we give it a week or two. And he doesn't play round 13 anyway. So maybe we give it a couple of weeks. Now, the downside of that is he does have a break even of 48 points. So it's quite a low break even. But I don't know, like coming back from that injury, he might not even goal kick. We've seen guys like Burton, Moses, all these guys come back from injuries in the lower leg and they haven't goal kicked. So maybe Campbell doesn't goal kick. It's just worth waiting till round 13. My plan, though, is if he looks good over the next 2 weeks, I'll buy him in round 13. I'll target him then, and he'll be a great option through the rest of the origin period. So my view is wait a couple of weeks on Campbell, let this one go. The Knights are not a great side right now, but they're not defensively fragile. Like they're not conceding big scores. They're just struggling to attack. So I don't think there's huge points on offer for Campbell in this game anyway. I mean, he could come out and pop off. We know who Campbell is. He probably pops off and scores 60 this week. But that injury is what I'm pointing out here, that that could potentially, really hurt Jaden Campbell. So that's where I'm thinking just probably steer clear. If you guys are asking too about Tuivasa, apparently an ankle injury, so apparently he might be out a while. So yeah, he also had that head knock as well. So I'll give exact confirmation later, but looks like he's got a few issues there. Then going through to the forward pack here for the Titans. I mean, this is a tricky one. Like Fodawaker, RCG, and Tino should be a really good middle forward rotation, but no, Tino's been playing good. RCG, as a para fan, I know what he can do, and I haven't seen it from him this year. And Fodawaker's sort of been hit and miss as well. Verrill's been all right. Again, this team, they're not playing round 13. So, a few of you guys got on Bo Firma last week, scored the double, scored 68 points, which is absolutely awesome. But I don't know. I just sort of think he's going to play Origin. Like you could get on. He's going to be a great option. But I don't see why you would go Bo Firma over Dylan Lucas and Herbie Farmworth. I think they're the guys you get. They're not playing Origin. They're going to be rock solid through this period. Go them instead of Bo Firma. The prices are similar enough, and run it that way instead. Then a few of you guys asking about Campbell versus Kelly. Of course, Campbell's ahead of Kelly. Kelly's going to be 300K. That's the whole appeal there, guys. Now, for the interchange, no one's super interesting for the Titans here either. So I'll throw to you, Monty. Any questions for us coming through? Sharp or Campbell, the better buy? Sharp or Campbell, the better buy? Sharp, for sure. Yeah, so Sharp plays round 12 and round 15. He's in form, fully fit. Campbell's the better scorer of the two. I think Sharp is like a 55 average. I think Campbell is a 62 average long term. But I would go Sharp today, for sure. Hold Brimo in foreign back. Yeah, look, Brimson probably does move to fullback. Foreign might come to the halves. That, like, foreign coming to the halves as well, that's going to hurt Jaden Campbell too. So he'll be a less dominant half, but probably opens up a bit more attacking play for him. So could be really interesting. I probably think that Brimson, you could hold Brimson. It's a tough one because he sort of hasn't shown that much so far. Now, Monty, we're going to try you talking here. So try asking this next question.
Right, this next question from Facebook. When should I sell Tino?
When should you sell Tino? I would say in the next fortnight or so. No rush to do it now, but you could sell Tino next week or the week after. I'd do it before Origin 1.
And then we have, would you ever consider looking at any of these Titans cheapies as cash cow options throughout the buy period?
Not really interesting to me. Dave Fafita will come back. They've got a lot of guys who can eat minutes as well. So, yeah, I would say, skip most of these guys. It feels like a bit of a merry-go-round. And the issue is that if there's an injury anywhere in the team, Chris Randall sort of eats up the minutes. So there's just not a lot of upside with these players.
That's all for the Titans.
All right, cool. Let's keep pumping through. So we've got the Rabbits and the Broncos, and mates, two teams who did not play well at Magic Round at all. Lot of concerns for the Bunnies with their injuries, and for the Rabbitohs. I mean, after the Broncos, what are you going to do, right? Like they sort of came out, they beat the Dogs a couple of weeks ago, lost to the Panthers. It's just a bit of a mess. So for this matchup, two teams are really looking to sort of jump back into the winner's circle. We're going to talk about Payne Haas in a sec as well, because the captain merry-go-round is definitely starting up. Now, for the Rabbitohs, we've got Latrell at fullback. We have a pretty weak backline as far as South Sydney standards go. So Bentley Hape, Isaiah Tass, we've got Campbell Graham, Fletcher Myers. Then we go to Sullivan. Humphreys is returning in the halves. Forward pack here is Arrow Havili. Kalamatangi goes to prop in a bizarre move as well. Ewan Aitken, Tallis Duncan in the back row with Lachlan Hubner starting at lock. We then see Jai Gray, Kepi, Moale, and LeBlanc on the bench. This is a bizarre team list, and it's one that is kind of interesting. So Kalamatangi moving back into the middle forward rotation could mean something. It could mean something. I mean, Totola stays sort of out of the picture, and Kepi back on the bench, then maybe Kalamatangi plays big minutes in the middle. Probably unlikely though. So, you can wait till round 13 anyway, because South Sydney have that bye in round 12 and then a great run after that. But Kalamatangi should be on our watch list. Ewan Aitken is exactly the same. Should be on our watch list. So wait for Ewan Aitken to really cement that spot in the back row before we do jump on him. But again, round 13 is when I'm eyeing off Ewan Aitken. The risk here right now is that Jack Whiten is out for a few more weeks. And we've seen them preference Ewan Aitken at centre over, playing guys like Myers, Bentley Hape, Isaiah Tass, who, are not as experienced in first grade. And just don't sort of have that same presence at center that Ewan Aitken does. So I think there's still risk that he moves back to center. Hopefully for us, he plays center in round 14 and then becomes an option after that. Then for the rest of the team, I mean, the back line here, Latrell, a few questions coming through on Latrell Mitchell. I wouldn't be targeting him right now. There's a bit of chat, though. That Laurie Daly is conspiring with his little crystal ball of insane selections, and he's thinking about not picking Latrell Mitchell, which I'm just so ready to be disappointed by Laurie Daly's selections this year. He seems like a nice guy. I'm sure he's a good bloke, but some of the things he says, it's just like, mate, how are you making that choice? Like Latrell Mitchell, there's a few guys you select in Origin no matter what. So Stephen Crichton, you pick him no matter what the form is. Liam Martin hasn't been in great form for club level, but you pick Liam Martin in your team because you know he's going to rock up in Origin. Latrell Mitchell is exactly the same, has never let us down the Origin arena. So these are guys that you just stick into the team. You don't think about it. Don't overcook it. Latrell Mitchell should be in the Origin side. And I think he's got a chance over this next couple of weeks to really cement that position. So I think Latrell will play well enough to get back into the Origin team. But, you never know with Laurie Daly. And same with Queensland, like Billy Slater, these guys make some wild decisions. And there's obviously something that goes into Origin selections that is not sober, where maybe they get pissed before they pick the teams. I don't know what's going on. But, it could be anything here. I do think, though, with Latrell, I'm off Latrell in round 14. So if Latrell doesn't get picked for Origin, and then the Blues win game 1, then you could look at Latrell in round 14 as an option. But I wouldn't be doing it right now. Then Jamie Humphries is probably another one to ask about. So Jamie Humphries, you're looking at a guy who, it's a tough one because he's not going to dominate kick meters the way he did before. So, exactly. Break even at 68, wait a week or two. The other thing with him is Latrell Mitchell does eat up about 300 kick meters a game at fullback. That's traditionally what he does in that South Sydney side. So Humphries won't be as dominant with kick meters as he was before. I would drop his points down about 5 or 10 points with Latrell back in the team. Probably some attacking upside there, though, if South Sydney do start humming. But, for Jamie Humphries, wait and see. Watch in the next 2 weeks. Look at him after the bye they have in round 12 for round 13. So that's really going to be my answer for most of South Sydney guys. You're not buying too many of these guys unless you really want to take a speculator and take a big pod. If you want to pot up with Humphries, by the way, I'm not against it. Like, he should come in and should be dominant. He should be the dominant half. Latrell will steal a few hundred kick meters off him, but he should be the same guy as he was before. It is a hamstring injury, though. So, my usual rule with those is wait a week. And I think the couple of weeks, then a bye, round 13 is the best time to target him. But if you want to pot up, you can pot up. I'm not going to talk you out of it. For the rest of the South side, Hubner becomes a hold at this point. So if you still have Hubner in your team, hold on to him. I don't think it changes his scoring that much. I think he's going to be maybe 35 to 40 points, 40 to 45 minutes. He's solid enough. He's doing a job. Stick with him. I think your team has more problems than Lachlan Hubner, is my guess, based on what I've seen from most sides. So that's South Sydney. Any other questions for him there?
Yes, we do. We have
Louder, Monty. Yell.
Louder, right. We're going to watch chest here. Now, Peter Mamazelis, would you look to hold him this week, use him as a looper potentially, or would you look to move him on?
Mamazelis, I would be thinking he's probably a sell. A lot of chat that he's out 4 to 6 weeks. So 4 to 6 weeks is too long. It's much too long to be holding on to a guy like Mamazelis. But if it was a shorter time period, like 2 to 3 weeks, I'd hold on to Mamazelis for sure. Because the Origin schedule for South is awesome, and the hooker spot is an absolute joke. Any other questions for South?
Now, speaking of hooker, Savili Havili, would you look to dive into him or?
Oh, that's risky. Look, Havili's done a job before, but he's not really an 80-minute guy. Like, it's only 4 to 6 weeks. So if it's 4 weeks, then Havili doesn't cover any of the major bye rounds. I don't know. They've got other guys that played there. Like Sullivan's played a bit of hooker as well. I just think it's probably not going to be the option there. And then, maybe just pop up the other questions there because I think it's still quiet. Bentley Hape. If you're Bentley Hape, I'm going to say no. Not a great fantasy scorer, and I don't think he's played well enough to hold a spot in the team either. I think he'll be out of the side relatively soon. And Koloamatangi owner. Oh, well, if you still have him, you'd hold him for sure. The Origin period should be good for Koloamatangi. I don't think the move to prop changes his scoring that much. I think South Sydney playing against the Broncos is not a good matchup for him to play in the middle because they're going to get monstered. But you definitely hold on to him. Like you stick with him. Maybe he plays a bit of lock at some point. Maybe he goes back to those 300 meters a game. He's lost his cash already, so definitely roll with Koloamatangi. All right, cool. So Broncos, we got Selwyn Cobber at fullback here. Then we got Mariner, Stagg, Shibasaki, Arthurs in the back line with Hunt and Reynolds. No Ezra Mam just yet. Forward pack is Carrigan, Walters, and Haas in the front row. And then we go to the big boy, Xavier Willison in the back row with Jordan Ricky and Hetherington at lock. Corey Pakes, Corey Jensen, Brendan Piakura demoted back to the bench, and Fletcher Baker. Now, for the Broncos, I just want to quickly check out this extended bench. Looking at Smoothie, Karapani, Tapau. Yeah, okay. No one really who's going to steal too many minutes there. I was thinking maybe we might see a few interesting names. So for the Broncos, I guess in the back line here first, look, Brisbane don't have an amazing Origin schedule. We're going to release a video, by the way, guys, an Origin sort of breakdown and bye period breakdown. It'll talk through, how to play the bye periods and Origin in NRL fantasy. But just at a high level, the Broncos don't have a great schedule. So they're not guys that you're really targeting as buy cover. But I will start at the top with Selwyn Cobbo as a guy who, a few of you guys are asking about him. A guy who I bought this week and just really like the scoring profile on Cobbo. So reserve grade numbers, it's 10 games of reserve grade. When he was a bit younger as well, he averaged about 200 meters a game and 8 tackle breaks a game. He's translated that into first grade. Last week, we saw about 220 meters and 10 tackle breaks. So I'm a big Cobbo fan. I think at fullback, he can be an absolute monster. We saw him score 55 last week without major attacking stats. So he had a line break there, but outside of that, minimal attacking stats. In a game where they got smashed by the Panthers, he got 55. So I like the look at Cobbo. I think if they can win and he can rack up a couple of tries, he has the potential to go 80 plus any given game. So yeah, Cobbo I'm a big fan of. The issue here though is he's probably not a buy just yet. So Reece Walsh is out, maybe another 2 weeks. Like it's looking like about another 2 to 3 weeks. So you're going to get Cobbo for 2 games and he goes back to the wing. I think it might be a little bit too late now to get on Cobbo. But if you think, really the question is, do you think Cobbo is going to play at fullback over Reece Walsh? That's probably the question. And if you think that's going to happen, then you could buy him. But I really don't see that happening. I just don't think that's going to happen unless they maybe bring Walsh back through reserve grade. Like it's a hard one to make a case for buying right now. And exactly as Adam on Facebook just said there too, Cobbo doesn't play round 12 and 15. Walsh is back soon. Exactly right. So yeah, you can't really make that case. He also, you're right. B Sharp. He also has a chance at Origin as well, but he doesn't play 12 and 15 anyway. So I don't think that's a major factor. Now the upside with Cobbo, and one of the reasons I did buy him last week was he was priced at a 32 last week. He's playing fullback where he pumps out big numbers. So I think he can average 50 plus at fullback. And then when he goes back to the wing, his last season where he played on the wing for a full year, he averaged 42 anyway. So I believe he's about 10 points of value regardless of what happens, even if he goes back to the wing. But he's even more value at fullback. We also have a game where after he goes back to the wing, he has a game against the Titans who, as we've seen, don't defend wingers. So I think he could score a few tries in that game too. So from my perspective, look, Cobbo is a very, very, very risky option. It's a very small period of time he has now in the team. So I wouldn't be recommending him, but I do think he pops off over the next couple of weeks. So do with that what you will. If you're a head-to-head coach, by the way, I actually like him. Head-to-head coaches, I'd buy him. But overall coaches, I think you probably want to steer clear. You're a week too late now. So only for head-to-head if you're jumping on Cobbo. Then for the rest of the back line here, guys like Staggs, he's done it before every now and then, but not consistently. Shibasaki keeps on putting up good numbers, so you can hold or sell him whenever you want, basically. He's just sort of getting the job done. Arthurs. I think these guys should score well this week because South Sydney aren't a great unit right now. And they've got a few guys back, a few troops back this week, but I still think they might struggle with edge defense. If you look at this, 2 to 5 here, those combinations might be a bit light. Then for the halves, Hunt, Reynolds, Hunt's going to play Origin. He'll play big minutes at hooker, which is not going to be great for backing up. And Reynolds just carrying a lot of little injuries as he does, so not someone I'm targeting either. Forward pack here, Carrigan's doing a job. Payne Haas. We're going to talk about Payne Haas here. So Haas as a captain is an interesting one. Now, Payne Haas, I had a look at the numbers here, and I'm actually getting a video ready for you guys where we're going to go through the captaincy statistics, right? So we have 9 games of sample size. I've got enough here to sort of talk about it. But Payne Haas, there's actually a correlation where he averages 80 points a game when the Broncos lose and 74 points a game when the Broncos win. So he's actually scoring a little better in losses. What we've also seen in those numbers is that his lowest 2 scores have been in wins. So he's scoring more consistently in losses as well. So from my perspective, Payne Haas, when they're up against a tough team, and a few of you guys mentioned this in the comments of the recap video as well, but when he's up against a tough team, he seems to step up, seems to do a bit more, throw more offloads, get a bit more creative. And we saw that again last week where he was really pushing at 10 plus tackle breaks, trying to drag them back into the game against the Panthers. So Haas benefits from the loss, but his biggest score of the year was in a win when he went 100 plus. So here's what you're thinking here with Payne Haas. If you think Haas will score a try in this game, or create maybe a try with an offload, try assist, that you're basically betting on attacking stats. If you think Haas will have a day, have some attacking stats in this game, he is an option you could look at 100%. Now, I know we don't love South Sydney's middle forward rotations, but when I look at this team here, they've run Koloamatangi at prop, with Jai Arrow at prop, and then Hubner at lock. This is a pretty strong middle three there. And then Havili is not a small guy either. So there's not a lot of tiny, blokes that he's going to run over in this middle forward rotation. I think Jai Arrow, Koloamatangi, Hubner, Havili could hold their own in the middle here. They won't win against Haas and Carrigan, right? That's the class prop pairing of the competition. But I think they could hold their own. I don't think it's going to be as openly dominant as we expect. What I think will happen is the Broncos are going to win on the edges, and we're going to see a lot of outside backs scoring big points. And I think Payne Haas might be a little quieter in this game unless he does get involved in those attacking stats. So really it's going to be on the edges in particular, or on the back of a line break or something like that. But you're relying on attacking stats is my view on Payne Haas in this game. Saying that, I do think the Broncos will win well. So, attacking stats are going to be an offer. That's kind of where I'm looking at. It's a really tough one. It's a tough one. I will consider it up until Thursday, and there's a reason I make this captain video on Thursday, by the way, because I really want to have a look at this right up at the end. But for Payne Haas, it's an attacking stat bet is the key thing. A few guys mentioning here too, 88 points last week with no Mayo stats, no attacking stats. That was in a loss though, so that kind of proves my point. Like in a loss, he averages 80. In wins, he actually averages only 74. So that's my view there. Xavier Willison, worth a shout here too. A few of you guys are asking about him. Monty, I've seen a few of them pop up. But for Xavier Willison, the minutes weren't good last week. Only played about 40 minutes. We're seeing Brendan Piakura on the bench there as well. He'll play a bit of edge back row. Jordan Ricky is traditionally an 80-minute guy, but went to the bench last week. So that's, it's sort of up to you. I personally don't think Willison will be good enough on the edge back row spot in terms of minutes production. So I'm going to steer away from him. And really last week, he was a very, very, very risky pod to jump onto. He does benefit a little bit around the origin period when Carrigan and Haas get a rest, but they don't play the major bye rounds. If they play round 12 and round 15 or something like that, we would definitely jump on. But, without that benefit, I don't think Willison has a lot of upside. Buckman mentioned it too. Wilson limping on the sideline at Magic Round, had a cork problem. Yeah, that's worth shouting out as well. It still is a bit dicey, though, for me. You've got Piakura, who played 80 minutes last week in the back row. Now on the bench, Jordan Ricky is traditionally in that role. Wilson's going to need to play this hybrid role where he plays back row, plays a bit of prop, and I'm just not 100% sure that works out well. Negan mentioned a nice stat here too. Cobbo always won the matchups against Latrell as well, except in the Origin Arena where Latrell is undefeated. Hopefully he gets picked this year. For the rest of the Broncos side, look, we're not really too keen. I mean, Fletcher Baker, what's he priced at? I'm just trying to think, like Fletcher Baker, because Fletcher Baker at times has sort of turned up. I mean, the Origin schedule is probably not good enough anyway. But if Fletcher Baker was really cheap, I think he'd be a bit too expensive right now. I'll just double check this price for Fletcher Baker. Yeah, $400K, no interest there. We're probably steering clear of these guys. So let's see any questions coming through here on the Broncos. Shibasaki, a hold or sell? His break-even's 25. No, I think hold him for sure this week. So, yeah, I hold him 100%. This is a good matchup. South Sydney edges, a lot of new combinations here. Not going to be strong defensively. I think Shibasaki is a good shout for attacking stats. So, yeah, I would say hold Shibasaki for sure. But, you do what you need to do for your team. If a sell makes sense as well, you can do it. I just think he's going to pop off this week. Billy Walters, a cheapie. No, not of interest to me. So Ezra Mam is back in the picture now. We might see Ben Hunt go to hooker at some point. That could eat up the minutes there for Walters. Like, there's just too many sort of messy parts to this equation. So I would say no to Billy Walters. Must-haves in the Broncos team, apart from Haas, not really. Payne Haas is the must-have. If you're a head-to-head coach, I like Cobbo a lot, but if you're an overall coach, I wouldn't be jumping on Cobbo. The rest of it, I'm going to say no must-haves there. Piakura to be the new Pope during conclave. Yeah, that's why he's on the bench, so he can get the flight out and head across and become the Pope. But yeah, no, look, Piakura, it's classic Piakura, by the way. The week where he's not meant to be starting, no one's got him in fantasy, then he comes out and scores a 50 in base stats. That's classic Piakura. If we all bought him, he'd score 10 and get concussed and suspended for 6 weeks. Like he's the biggest troll in fantasy, but look, he's got a bit of talent. Like I know we always talk about his fantasy production not being great. He's got some game, and he had a good game in that one. He had a couple of forced errors as well. Piakura at some point will turn it around. That's why he's the mascot, because I've got faith. At some point he'll turn it around, but until then, we're just going to make jokes. All right, cool. Let's keep rolling through these teams here. So running into Saturday, 3 p.m., Raiders and the Dogs should be a belter of a game. Two teams who have been better than expectations, and they'll be fired up for this one. And first thing to note here is Corey Horsburgh is named. Oh, mate, these HIA rules are all over the place. So for the Raiders here, KO Wicks, we've got Tamale, Tomoko, Chris, Savage. Then we have Strange and Fogarty in the halves. Forward pack here is Horsburgh, Starling, Tarpanay. We have Young, Nicholson, and Smithies in the back row. Interchanges Paddy, Hosking, Papali'i, and Mariota. Now, for the Raiders, there's a few options you could look at here. I mean, they play round 12, but they don't have a super favorable origin schedule in general. So for the Raiders, I mean, KO Weeks is in a bit of form now. It's not consistent enough for fantasy. Tamale is a guy you're holding for sure, but I'm leaning towards Tamale being a bench this week. I think Tamale against the Dogs, they tend to clamp up. And as much as they are a little bit under strength, I think Tamale is one that you can leave on the bench unless you really need to play him, which, to be honest, I might need him this week at wing fullback. We'll have a look at how it pans out. But if you can bench Tamale, this is probably a week to do it. Saying that, caveat, he can score a try at any given moment. So if he comes and scores a try, don't come at me. I just think the Dogs will limit opportunities here. Tomoko, Chris, Savage, meh. Ethan Strange, Fogarty. I mean, Fogarty's doing his job. We know who Fogarty is. Forward pack here, very interesting to talk about with this. So, Corey Horsburgh. Corey Horsburgh was clearly concussed, had a wobble, crazy stuff. He was having a beer after the game, so he seemed pretty okay then. But Horsburgh definitely Cat 1 HIA. They are challenging that HIA ruling, and he is being tested now to see if he still has symptoms, basically. So they're testing for following game symptoms, which is the rule and how it works right now. I would be very surprised if he gets cleared, but at the same time, we've seen a few times with the Raiders this year, guys who I think were concussed, Nicholson a few weeks back as well. And, there's been a ruling that hasn't indicated that. I'm not a doctor, so, I don't know everything about concussions, but I'm guessing Horsburgh won't play this week. Saying that, just on Horsburgh, yeah. So Devin asked this, origin selection pending. I don't think he's fully guaranteed to play Origin. And I don't know, sometimes with Billy Slater and Laurie Daly, and Origin selections in general, sometimes there's a lot of recency bias and excitement in these selections. So Horsburgh being out this week, I don't know, maybe he gets forgotten about a bit. It's a pretty crazy thing to say, but the Origin selections are really usually cooked. So I'm considering trying to hold Horsburgh this week. I may try to hold Horsburgh and just see if he gets selected for Origin and make a move then, because the middle forward options are pretty dire for round 12. So if Horsburgh ends up playing round 12, then that's gold. But I would say he's like an 85% chance of Origin. So look, if selling Horsburgh helps your team, then go and do it 100%. But if there's a way you could hold him and it doesn't hurt you too much, give it some thought, have a think about it, toy with a few different ideas there. Joey Tarpanay is another one, and I'm sure this question is going through on Tarpanay. But Tarpanay, a bit of chat, unconfirmed chat, that he had a cork or some other stuff there for that last game. Doesn't seem to be bothering him. He's going to play this game, I would expect. Just keep an eye on late mail there. And we post this stuff to Instagram as well. So Instagram's Casual NRL. We do post those updates there. But for Tarpanay, I would say, yeah, good option. He's a solid option. He's a guy he's been pumping out good numbers. The minutes have been on the rise. Very expensive, but we have cash. We have cash to burn right now. So I'm pretty happy to target Tarpanay. If you want to target Tarpanay, go and do it. He's a good option. Then Hudson Young, Nicholson. I mean, look, Hudson Young probably plays Origins. We're not going for him. Nicholson. A few people are asking me, is it too late for Nicholson? Look, he's playing 80-odd minutes there, so you can target Nicholson. I'm not against that at all. He's a solid option here for you, but it's just a case of, whether you're a believer. And if you're a believer, yeah, Nicholson is going to be solid, but I'd probably go a different direction and just, pot up, because a lot of people got Nicholson a lot cheaper. So maybe I'd go Kai Pearce-Paul over Nicholson, for example, especially in this Titans matchup. I think it's much better, and the Knights have a slightly better Origin schedule. Just a few people asking too, Horsburgh is not 100% playing. I would say he's like a 20% chance of playing. About a 20% chance. Very unlikely is my view, but we'll know for sure before the game. Like, we're going to know by tomorrow at the latest. So don't stress too much. These things will get answered for you in the next 24 hours. Doggies here. Actually, before we go, Doggies, Raiders questions. Starling, hold. Starling plays around 12. So unless you have Riley Smith as well, or you have another hooker for round 12, I would hold Starling till round 12. But you could also trade Starling down to Riley Smith and then free up some cash. I don't know. I think this is a pretty tough matchup. The Dogs will be pretty good against Starling. So, yeah, you could hold him if you need a hooker for round 12 is basically the answer there. Okay, Weeks, yeah, he's one that we were looking at. And he's kind of in that Brian Kelly camp that we were talking about, where he's playing kind of poorly, got cheap and then has bounced back. Dogs is not a good matchup for fullbacks. So I'm going to say a pretty firm no. The Dogs will clamp up, I would expect, even if Preston is out of this game as well. So, yeah, for KO Weeks, I'm going to say no. Oh, thank you, Flo. Appreciate that. Appreciate the love from my Kiwis. I feel like Kiwis are the biggest thing on this. Like, I swear, it's like 40% of the viewers of this show are Kiwis. So I'm going to have to get across to Auckland soon. TG Hosking. Yeah, no, Hosking's not getting enough minutes. So firm no from me. All right, and then rolling through to the Doggies now. Con Tracy at fullback. We have Karaz, Zeri, Crichton, and Montoya in the back line. Burton and Sexton in the halves. Then we go through the forward pack. We got King, Marnie, Saluka Fifita, Kick Out, Preston, and Salmon. Then we go to Mann, Hayes, Moran, Hayward. And before I jump into the Dogs, Monty, do you want to try something? Do you want to try plugging that microphone into mic 3 instead? And we'll see if we can get you back online. Now, for the Doggies here, Con Tracy at fullback. He's been a bit hit and miss. So he's been a guy who he's had a big game last week, but it was quiet the week before that. And, it could be a pot option if you're really crazy, but generally we're probably not targeting him. Karaz pumped out that 100-plus score, so we probably got to be talking about Karaz here. And when it comes to Jacob Karaz, what do you do here? What do you do? I mean, he's got a great Origin schedule, right? So they play rounds 12, 15, and 18. That's absolutely fantastic. He's got the Raiders this week, who are a bit of a tougher matchup than what he had last week against the Titans, but his break-even is very low and he's rising in cash, so you're sort of going to get left behind a bit if you don't jump on now. The risk here is that he plays Origin. So Zach Lomax is not on the extended bench for Parramatta. So best case scenario for Lomax is that, for Karaz, is that Lomax plays next week, has one game before Origin, kills it, looks healthy, and jumps back into the Origin side. The risk here, and the big risk, it's a huge risk, is that Karaz is playing fantastic footy right next to Stephen Crichton, and we're seeing that combination leading to a lot of tries. And Laurie Daly sees that and goes, you know what, Karaz is exactly the kind of guy we want in Origin. He and Crichton will be our edge in the Origin team. We're going to pick them together, and we are absolutely set. So I think Karaz is, like, after that game on the weekend, like a 40 to 50% chance of playing Origin. Lomax is a threat. And then maybe, you can make a case for Turbo on the wing, but then there's talk that Turbo might be at center. I really think it is between those guys. And then Josh Addo-Carr doesn't get talked about. I don't really understand why, because I think he's been in great form, but for Parramatta, I'm happy for him to play for Para as well. So I'm looking at this, and I just think if you get on Karaz, I personally wouldn't do it this week. He's more expensive now. He has a pretty good run of fixtures, but the Origin risk is huge, because if he makes Origin, what happened? And we'll go through the Origin video later as well. We're going to do a video on that soon. But if he makes Origin, what we're going to see is that he will miss round 12 due to Origin. He'll miss round 13 due to a bye. He'll play round 14. Then he'll miss round 15 due to Origin and miss round 16 due to a bye. So he'll miss 4 of 5 games in a couple of weeks' time. So that's the risk with Carraz that you're running there. But the upside is he covers the major bye rounds. So I'm going to say no, don't get Carraz, but a lot of people are interested in it. Now, Tancred Bay has asked, Monty, anyone told you look like Wade Graham? Let's see if you can speak first.
Let's go. Wade Graham's a first now. I get a couple of Nathan Browns, which I like. I get a couple of Nathan Clearys as well. I do look like him. I play footy like him as well. But Wade Graham, I like it.
You play footy like Nathan Cleary, mate.
I've been told.
Also, guys, let us know if that microphone's coming through from Monty now. If we can get him talking again. But I'll pay the Wade Graham. I also think you got a bit of a Dylan Egan kind of look as well.
Yeah, I'll take Dylan Egan.
Brunette Dylan Egan, yeah, nuggety, powerful. Let's see. Is the mic working, guys? Let us know. Loud up, but still no. What is going on? Maybe you're just too quiet.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep rolling through here. So we've got, for the Dogs, we've talked about the back line there. Matty Burton is a very interesting one. So for Matty Burton, I would say, what do you do? I mean, he's gotten cheap. So if you have him in, you're definitely holding on to him. But if you don't have him, I think just wait right up until round 12. Because there is a small chance that Matt Burton does make the Origin side in the 14 role or in the 18 role. That has potential there. But outside of that, you gotta wait a couple of weeks, I think is the answer there. But Matt Burton is a great option for round 12. Forward pack here, Max King, 43 minutes last week, 37 points. Not ideal. What do you do there? I mean, Max King is a really perplexing one. I don't think you can jump on Max King at this point. You got to give him a bit of time, right? And he's a good option for round 12, but he's going to drop a bit of cash. That 43 minutes last week was very concerning, especially considering the men they're missing in their team. So I personally am steering a bit away from Max King. He's just not someone I'm really considering. Doesn't have that historical pedigree or attacking upside and really needs those big minutes to be effective. And I just don't see him getting those when Curran comes back as well. So I'm probably steering away from Max King myself, and that's sort of been my view over the last few weeks. It was my view when he had that 90-point game. It's been my view for these quieter games as well. Then, guys like Kick Out, obviously, by the way, for Reed Marnie, not of interest there. They've got Bailey Hayward back on the bench. He'll play hooker, so Reed Marnie won't play 80 minutes again. Kick Out Preston, bit of conversation here. So Kick Out was a pod people were talking about. Scored in the mid-50s, so... mid-30s this week for Kick-Out. So, probably not of interest. And then Preston. Got to talk about Preston here. Yeah, so Preston, I'll give you guys the lay of the land because this one's really interesting and it's probably good to understand exactly how the judiciary works on this sort of play. So Jacob Preston was charged with a grade 1 crush tackle. So grade 1, that's the lowest grade you can have at the judiciary. So it just means they said that there was a crusher tackle and he's being suspended for it. He has a heavy loading, very heavy loading. So he got a pretty heavy suspension of 3 weeks for that grade 1 crusher tackle. Now, the Dogs looking at this and they're going, all right, it's 3 weeks for a grade 1. If we challenge, we can either get him down to 0 or it'll be upgraded to 4 weeks. They are currently under strength, have a few guys missing. Don't have great cover for Preston right now on the edge because Curran is not in the team right now. And Tupanua also, both of those guys are suspended. They would be the next 2 guys that would play on the edge. So I think the Dogs are looking at this and going, all right, it's worth the risk of 1 extra game to see if we can get this down to 0. Now, there is no potential for this to be reduced. So it's not going to be a 1 week or 2 week suspension because they're not downgrading the charge because it's grade 1, right? So they can't downgrade from grade 1 to anything but completely eliminated. So the Dogs are going to have to go and argue that this didn't happen, basically, that it wasn't a crusher tackle worthy of a suspension, pretty much. So it's a very, very challenging one for them to fight. I think it's going to be hard for them to fight it. I personally don't think that tackle was worth a 3 to 4 week suspension, but the way the judiciary is set up is such that it's going to be very hard for them to fight this. So I'm not that optimistic. I think he's probably going to get held up. I think Horsburgh and Preston are both like a 20% chance of playing this week. Yeah, 20%. I really think it's a long shot. Now, we're going to know for sure what happens. And look, as I've done my trades right now, I've actually done my trades in a way where I'm keeping Preston because I'm believing, my heart believes, and I want to hold Preston. He's been pumping it. So I've got this little feeling he might get off, but logically it's unlikely. But man, we hope so. We really hope so. So yeah, Preston, I would say unlikely, but him and Horsburgh, just keep an eye on it. You're gonna know for sure in the next 24 hours. We'll know for sure as well in future content too. So let's keep rolling through here. And for the rest of the dogs, I mean, if you guys are talking about Harry Hayes, just some of these pods are very risky and they don't always pan out. Hayes is definitely won 28 points in 48 minutes last week. Not ideal. Now, do we have any other questions here for the dogs? All right, so Campbell over Carraz. Yeah, I mean, I would wait on both. They're a little bit risky. I'd go Fletcher Sharp over both of them, but you probably have Sharp already. So of those two, probably Campbell, I would say. It's just, I would try to wait on both and just play a bit under strength at wing fullback this week. Ooh, Preston's still a buy. Yeah, for sure. So if he downgrades it to 0, 100%, he's a cracking option. Preston hasn't scored below 50 since round 1. So he's been scoring between 50 and 80 points every week. Just absolute beast so far. So yeah, great one to target. 6 weeks off. Oh, all right. Yeah, look, just because you missed the beat on Preston, he's our GOAT. Preston's going to get off for sure. Now I'm going to say it. You know what? I'm getting tribal about it. I hope he gets off, but man, it's a tough one to fight. And then we got Marnie. Okay, yeah. So Reed Marnie, good question. So for Reed Marnie, he's been dropping minutes recently. There's been a few rumors going around that the Dogs are looking at trying to sell him to another club or move him to another club, get rid of that contract, basically. What's happened is Bailey Hayward has come in and covered for Matt Burton while he was out. Hayward played great. He played really solid next to Sexton. So my assumption is that Dogs coaching room has sort of thought, all right, we need to find a way to play Bailey Hayward in our team every week. They've carved out some minutes at hooker, which has meant that he's taking minutes off Reed Marnie, who traditionally is an 80-minute guy. So when Hayward is on the bench, Marnie is like a 50-minute player. As a 50-minute player, he's like a 30 average, so not of interest for you in fantasy. So that's the issue there. Bailey Hayward's going to eat up a lot of those hooker minutes, unless either there's a long-term injury in the halves and Hayward goes to the halves, or Reed goes to another club, or Hayward is out for a while or whatever it is. This situation is not going to be good for Reed Marnie, and you're not going to want to target him. And if you have him in your team, you're probably going to sell him at this point. Cool. So let's keep rolling through. I always love when people ask for more elaboration because lets me talk for longer and, really share what I'm thinking there. But Dragons and the Warriors up next. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this game as well. The Warriors, they've been playing fun footy and the Dragons just don't defend. So this should be another bit of a shootout here. Both these teams had cracker games at Magic Round as well. Really, really fun ones to watch, really close games. And Jaden Sewer keeps his spot. I'll just mention that as well. Now, so NRL Noahs, you got to stop sooking, mate. Got to stop sooking, all right? You get up all the time. We do your team and pick my team. Now, Dragons, let's go. Gutho, Sloan, Sully, Holmes, Allen in the back line here. We got Flanagan and King, Tongia. Then we have Couchman, Cook, Clemmer in the front row, Egan, Sewer, Stewart at lock. Interchange is Little, DeBellin, Leilua, and Pacifici Tonga. Okay. I saw a few questions coming through about Loco. I thought people were asking about Jacob Loco, which would have been funny. But look, for the Dragons here, Loco Pacifici Tonga, he's got a lot of hype right now. I guess the question becomes, is there anything on the extended bench that's going to hurt him? Blake Laurie has been in the picture, for Tom Mariner maybe, but I think overall he should be okay. Now, Emre Gula is out. Do we know Gula had that shoulder? I think it was a dislocated shoulder. So that could be a bit of time on the sidelines. So there might be a chance that Pacifici Tonga actually does step into some decent minutes. Now, as we know with this Dragons bench middle forward rotation, they're not afraid of giving young guys a shot, giving them a bunch of minutes. I would say, though, for LPT, down in Jersey 17 for the Dragons, it's worth giving him a week and just seeing how he plays. He doesn't play round 13, so that's not a big thing for you there. The Dragons also don't lose many players to Origin, probably Jaden Sewer, but really outside of that, no one else. So maybe Damien Cook on the bench, Val Holmes, obviously, but their forward rotations aren't going to be affected by Origin too much. So from my perspective, you wait a couple of weeks. Give him 2 weeks, look at him in round 13. is the easy play there. And that's kind of what going to be my answer for a lot of these guys who don't play round 12. For the Dragons backline here, though, again, not really much interest. So I guess like in King Tongia, he was good in that game. LKT was good in that game. I just sort of thought, like, there was a few plays. He obviously had some attacking plays, and we love to see that. But the big thing I saw from LKT was when he ran the ball, he looked really firm, really strong. And you can sort of tell how a guy's built by how they take contact running the ball, particularly as a young half. I just sort of felt like he held his composure and his strength when he was running the ball. So when I look at that, I think, yeah, he's going to have some big running plays. And in that game, he had no tackle breaks, right? So you didn't see the upside of that in that game. But I saw the early signs that indicated to me that he's going to be an effective ball runner. And when he gets some of those lanes opening up and, feels more comfortable in the team, I think he's going to be a beast. So I personally have him penciled in for, sort of that low 40s average. I think he has some attacking upside, maybe high 30s, like that 40 mark for an average. Just has a bunch of running upside and, theoretically could really rack up some big meters. In that game, he had about 93 meters, but I think he could even go higher than that as well. So question is he a must-have? He'll have some quieter games as well. So he's a running half in a team that, is hit and miss. So he's definitely going to have some quiet games, but 260K for a guy who looks like he has pretty good job security. Bit of chat that Ilias could come back from Flanagan before the game, but I think LKT played well enough that he should be in the picture here. So I would say he's a good chance of staying in the team. The only risk to him really is either he drops off in form or Flanagan struggles to take all the kicking. Because we saw last week that Flanagan had to take that dominant. It's funny, he's named at 6, Flanagan, and LKT at 7, but really Flanagan was playing 7, doing all the kicking there. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, I think he's a great option to get onto right now. I'm definitely targeting him in my trades this week. So, yeah, jump on for sure. Then for the rest of the back line, no real interest there. For the forward pack here, Toby Couchman, probably a few questions about the Couch. A couple of injury issues floating around for Couchman. Big thing here is he had that knee injury about a month ago. He had that shoulder in that game too. I don't think he was going to come back in that game. I was sort of sitting behind the Dragons bench there, and it didn't look like he was going to come back to me. But then when Gula did his dislocated shoulder, we saw Couchman come back on and save his score there. But without that dislocation, I think we might have seen a much lower score from Couchman. So if you have Couchman, you stick with him. Like, you ride the wave. He's not going to play Origin. He's a guy who's been really rock solid for you there. So you roll with him. But if you don't have Couchman, you don't buy. Like, these injuries are just sort of stacking up. And I think they'd be crazy to run him into the ground and play him for 70 minutes a game when they have other guys who can step up. So, yeah, I don't have Couch. I recommended him to you guys for a month straight and just didn't buy him myself. So I've taken a few silly pod plays this year, and some of them have paid off, some of them haven't. But, going against Couch, at some point it will probably pay off, but for now it hasn't. Then for the rest of the forward pack here, I mean, look, Clemmer's eating up a few more minutes there as well. Dylan Egan, like, firm hold. We talked about that last week. He's a rock-solid option. He's not going to score a try every week, right? But there was some nice crafty play in that try he did score. And he's playing some more minutes in the middle as well. So I think it was about 72 minutes in that last game. Just stick with him. Keep starting him. He might have the odd score where he goes in the 30s, but most of the time he's going to pump out about 50. And every now and then he goes 70 plus as well. So he's in my 17 for sure. Then Hamish Stewart, if you have him in your team, stick with him. I wouldn't buy him, though. If he played round 12, we could talk about it, but I wouldn't be targeting him. I think Jack DeBellin being there is a big issue for him too. I will say too, this bench, it could steal a lot of minutes here. So, DeBellin will steal minutes. Little steals minutes there as well because Cook and Little play on the same time on the field. And then Pacific Tonga, Leilua, they steal some minutes too. So I wouldn't be targeting Stewart. The minutes weren't good enough, but that try was pretty slick that he scored in that game. Any other Dragons questions before we jump to the Warriors? So traded Egan last week. Should I buy him back? I mean, what's Egan priced at? Like, I just want to see where he's priced because I think you could pencil him in for like a 45, let's say. So if he's worth a 45, he's priced at a 43, doesn't play, around 12. And 45 is very conservative, but I try to be conservative with some of these guys. I would say no. Don't buy Egan this week. He's already priced at a 43. you've jumped off. You might as well just sort of stay off there. The minutes could be inconsistent as well. So he's not guaranteed his minutes there. That's why I do acknowledge that he could score 30 odd every now and then. But I'm going to say no to buying Dylan Egan. Then we got LKT. Would you play him? Yeah. I think he's a pretty good option. We saw that, the Cowboys playmakers were pretty good last week. So, Dearden went well. Drinkwater went well. LKT, there's going to be some opportunities against the Warriors this week. We've seen some new combinations here too. So if we go to the Warriors side of the ball, Cabewell is playing at center there. We're seeing, DWZ coming back as well. We're seeing Halasima and Nia Kore starting in the back row, which is different to last week. It's a bit all over the place for the Warriors. So, yeah, I would say that, LKT should have an opportunity to score some points. Extra catching practice for Sewer. Yeah, Jaden Sewer, that was a shocker when he dropped that ball. And that one, that lost in that game. The fact that he dropped that ball. So, yeah, easy play. Now, let's jump across to the Warriors here. We got CNK at fullback, DWZ, Pompey, Capewell, Tuapiki, Harris Tavita, Metcalf. Go through the forward pack here. We have Ford, Egan, Barnett in the front row, Halasima, Niokore, Clark in the back row. And then we have Healy, Laban, Valmunga, and Bunty Afoa. Just want to check out the extended bench again because that's the big question. Here we go. It's Tamari Martin, Boyd. Yeah, so no Fisher Harris again on that extended bench. So he's still at least another week away. That was probably the expected time frame as well. So what we heard a couple of weeks ago was 2 weeks away. So I'm guessing Fisher Harris probably comes back next week, if not the week after. So keep that in mind when we look through this team list here. But for the back line, I'm going to say basically no to everything across the board. Like shout out to you guys with Dylan, like Luke Metcalf. Metcalf killed it last week, 90 points in that game. Absolutely dominated, but we're not targeting Metcalf at this point. So I'm going to say a pretty firm no to Lukey Metcalf. Then for the forward pack, Ford, Egan, Barnett. I mean, Barnett was better, might be in the origin team. Ford goes back to prop. The minutes have been inconsistent. Egan, a bit of a drop-off, actually. So he lost some minutes to Healy last week, and Healy is named again. I don't think you're selling Egan right now. He's a hooker who plays in a team that plays round 12 up against the Dragons who can concede some points. I think you hold Egan, but you're not happy. You're not happy right now because I feel like the gravy train is coming to an end. Then for the back row, we could talk about Halasima here. It's a bit bizarre that Capewell is playing center again. I find that a little bit strange, but Capewell's back at center. Look, Halasima could play big minutes in the back row again. Dragons are a team who can concede some tries, so you could target Halasima if you wanted to. And then, RTS racing the clock. Capewell could go to the back row. Yeah, fair shout there. RTS could potentially jump in as well. So, keep an eye on that too. But really, I'm not targeting too many of these guys super aggressively. I guess the other one to talk about here is Aaron Clark. And for Aaron Clark, let's just quickly check his exact priced at. Because when it goes, by the way, a few of you guys asked about this. When I talk about this, when I say a player is priced at, it basically means that their dollar value equals a certain number of points. So you're looking for about 10 points of value. So you want a guy who's priced at 40 and averages 50, right? That's kind of what you're going for. Now, Aaron Clark, he's priced at a 51 now. So the last few weeks, it's gone from a 43 to a 48 to a 51. When 43, it was red hot value. At 48, it was a bit of a stretch. I think at 51, it's too much to jump onto now. So I personally think that he's a bit too expensive. I think Fisher Harris coming back hurts him as well. We've seen Ford eat some minutes up. I'm just sort of starting to think, hey, we're probably at that point now where it's a bit too pricey. Saying that he's had 3 weeks in a row where he's played 60-plus minutes, and we saw him get to about 70 minutes last week. So they're running Healy on the bench too, which is that, bench hooker. So stealing those Egan minutes, that helps him as well. So there are some pluses here. I just personally think he's priced pretty highly now. Probably not a lot of risk in it, but you're paying for what you get, basically. So I wouldn't tear your team apart to get Aaron Clark, but I do think he's a solid option. We're going to talk about Jazz Tavanga shortly, though, and we're going to talk about Jacob Safidi as well. And I think they're kind of more interesting options that are a bit cheaper. So, I probably wouldn't be jumping on Clark over some of those guys. And then there's going to be other guys, too, that pop up, like, your Joey Tarpanay there as well, or even, Fanua Blake in a couple of weeks' time when he gets a bit cheaper. I'm probably steering more towards that pedigree than Aaron Clark this week. But if you do like Aaron Clark, he's probably a little bit of value still. He probably still does average in the low 50s to mid-50s, but just keep an eye on James Fisher-Harris, who will be back probably next week. And the other thing is I'll shout out, Fisher Harris is actually going to be a great option. He'll be about $550K in round 12. And that's great value for what he does as well. So that's my view on Aaron Clark there. Any other questions here for the Wires, Monty, before we roll through? Barnett, Origin 2 probable. Yeah, I wouldn't pick Barnett in my Origin side personally. I just sort of haven't seen it from him this year. There are a few sets that the Warriors had where they kind of needed someone to step up from the forwards and make a big run. And I didn't see Barnett sort of step into that the way he did last year. So I personally think he's playing a bit below what he was last year. Last year he was just so good. This year, not as special. So he wouldn't be in my Origin side, but I think he has a good chance of making it. Is Chance a shout for wing fullback round 12? Nah, I don't think so. Like, scoring's been inconsistent. Injuries popping up as well. And yeah, no go. And then Healy, increased minutes, good option. I don't think so. So I think we can slide past him, move to the next team. And Monty, do you want to relocate across to here instead? Come across here and we'll give you a go on the next one and see if we can get you talking with our microphone issues. Now, Cowboys and the Panthers up next, and I'll talk through these guys. So we've got Scotty Drinkwater. Then we have Rob Derby, Jackson Purdue, Leon Vilea, Murray Talangi, Tom Dearden, Jake Clifford. And then we're looking at the forward pack here, which is McLean, Robson, Taumalolo, Bateman, Nanai, McIntyre, Edwards, McKaylee, Neem, and Cohen Hess on the bench. So first things first, worth shouting out that Ruben Cotter is now out suspended for a couple of weeks. So 2 weeks just before Origin, he'll be back. So he'll get picked for Origin. And it does open up a few minutes, theoretically, in the Cowboys pack, but they don't play round 12. It's probably not going to be that interesting to me. So really going through the Cowboys, the interest points are Scotty Drinkwater. He's been on fire the last 2 weeks. We'll talk about him in buy, hold, sell for sure. But the answer is yes. He's a great option to target. Plays all the Origin buy rounds and has a great Origin schedule, except for round 12. So that's the big thing to think about there. I will say, though, I think you're probably getting one or the other when it comes to Drinkwater versus Campbell. You're probably not getting both because you probably have Fletcher Sharp and a few other options there too. For the back line here, Jackson Purdue feels like a hold to me. Jackson Purdue is a guy who, that's a big question there. He's a guy who's got a great Origin schedule, just like Drinkwater. He does rely on tries 100%, but on a dry track, I really like him. It was a very sloppy, wet track, and his footwork didn't really, get a chance to show out. So I wouldn't play him in my 17 in a really wet weather game, but in a dry game, if this is a dry one, which I'll know for sure, I'll put this in buy, hold, sell as well. Purdue's definitely an option that I'll be playing in my team as long as it is a bit of a dry game. Then, Vilea, Talangi, they're sort of bouncing back. Dearden might make Origin potentially, a bit of chat about that. Forward pack here. Cowboys forward pack is a bit of a wasteland when it comes to fantasy production. Robson has been informed, but he probably makes Origin. Nanai has been informed, but he probably makes Origin. I'm going to say no to Nanai. I think it's too late here now. He's gotten too expensive. A few weeks ago, he was very interesting, but just now it's a bit too pricey for me. Then for the interchange, nothing really here. So, have we got any other questions here? And you have to speak very loud here.
No more questions for the Cowboys. Plenty of questions on the Panthers, though. Someone on their bench who I think we all have.
Tommy Jenkins, the GOAT. I don't think it stays that way, by the way. So let's talk about this one, and let's see what we got for the Panthers. So for Penrith, we got Dylan Edwards at fullback, Alamotti, Tungo, Garner, Tor in the back line. Then we have Blaze, Talangi, Nathan Cleary in the halves. We're looking at Leota, Kenny, Smith in the front row, Papali'i, Martin, and Yo in the back row. Schneider, Liam Henry, Patea keeps his spot as well, and Tommy Jenkins in jersey 17. Then we have Summerton, Eisenhuth, Casey McLean, Dane Laurie, and Trent Tolau. So I personally think that either Ivan Cleary has lost the plot here completely, or we're going to see a massive change on game day. So it could be either of these things, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Ivan Cleary hasn't lost the plot completely here, and we see Jenkins come back into the team. My view on this is that it's probably got to be, I don't know, maybe Jenkins come back in at center. The issue is that Luke Garner did play quite well at center last week, so it's hard to drop him as well. But they previously had a very strong preference for Garner in the back row and Papali'i in the prop rotation. So we may see that change late. We might see Jenkins go to center, Garner go to the back row, and Papali'i go into the prop rotation because Papali'i wasn't good last week. And as much as I've been campaigning for him in the back row, they seem to like him at prop. So we might see that swap. We could see quite a few things happen here. So from my perspective, I wouldn't sell Jenkins just yet. If you've got Jenkins, he's not going to play. Maybe he plays this week. Maybe he doesn't. If he does play, the Cowboys are a very favorable matchup. If he doesn't, then he has the bye in round 11, and he probably plays again round 12 anyway, because Brian To'o will be out of the team. He might even play fullback. Probably not, but he might play fullback as well for Dylan Edwards. So I would keep him for sure, but it's just a bizarre – a few of you guys mentioned this. The bizarre team list. I'm fairly confident that they go Jenkins to center, Garner to back row, and probably to bench as a bench prop. That's how I see this happening, but the Panthers have made some bizarre moves this year. Outside of that, Nathan Cleary, you're probably going to ask that question, right? I'm asking myself this question at the same time. Is Cleary the captain option for this week? And the Cowboys have leaked some points to playmakers. We saw Luke Metcalf pump out 90-plus last week against them. So from my perspective, Cleary is a very valid captain option. Will I do it? Probably not. They're playing up in North Queensland. I just like Payne Haas and Terrell May's consistency. They don't really seem to go low at any point. So I'm probably not going to go with Cleary myself. But if you like it, he's got big upside. This is one of those games where Cleary could go 120 plus. So, hey, the upside is there, but the risk with Cleary is he can score those lower 50-odd scores as well compared to the consistency of Haas and Terrell May. Then for the rest of the team, I'll throw to you, Monty. Any questions coming through for us here?
Mitch Kenny's back. Would you look at him as a pod option?
Kenny is a pod? No, I don't think so. Unless he's gotten really cheap. I haven't really been watching Kenny. Let me just quickly check. So Mitch Kenny, 458K, averaging 34. Not for me. No thanks.
And then we have, obviously, someone you're keen on, IPAP. Would you look to bring him in over the Origin rounds with Martin potentially gone?
Not for me. They don't have a great Origin schedule. So they have 3 buys through the Origin period, if you count round 11. So it's not a good schedule at all. And Papali wasn't good last week either, so firm no.
And thoughts on Brian To'o? Would you look to get him or Origin around the corner? You think it's a bit of he's getting cheap?
Well, he plays this week. He has a bye next week. He has Origin the week after. So firm no for me on Brian To'o. He's a beast, but not going to be a guy I'd target in fantasy.
And then final question for the Panthers, Luke Garner. Any love for him?
Not unless he got center duel and then started in the back row for a while, but seems pretty unlikely. So I'm going to say a pretty firm no on Luke Garner as well. Great game for him last week, but just not for me. And then into Sunday, and then we'll do some trade questions after this, guys. So Sunday and then trade questions. Storm v Tigers should be a cracker. Day game. I'm just going to shout out a quick stat here I found. Terrell May averages 85 points in day games and 70 in night games.
Ooh.
So just worth shouting out. One of you guys mentioned in the comments of the buy, hold, sell video or the recap video that he was better in day. I decided to study up and have a look at it. So this is some of the insights you're going to see on that captain video this week. Now for the Storm, we got Pappenhausen at fullback, Fairlongo, Anderson, Meaney, and Coates in the back line, Munster and Hughes in the halves. Then we go through the forward package, Tokamanu, Garlic, King, Blore, Katoa, Loiero in the forwards. And then we have Wishart, McDonald, Kamitha Mitha, and Joe Chan. Extended bench, nothing super noteworthy. Maybe a Sofa Solomona to come in, but other than that, we're not going to see too much change. So for the Storm here first, we could probably talk about Ryan Pappenhausen. He's been motoring along all right. Had a good game in real life, but didn't really pump out a massive fantasy score. Sua Failongo, not of interest for fantasy. Had a cracker of a game. He's an awesome football player, just not a fantasy producer and not consistent enough in his role on the team. Rest of the back line here for the Storm, not really that interesting to me. Cam Munster, a bit of a shocker. He'd be a sell if we didn't have 4 billion injuries to deal with and all these buys. But yeah, Munster, if your team works and you can sell him, I don't mind selling him. But at the same time, Tigers match up this week. I've liked a few things about Munster's performances lately. Not the missed tackles, by the way, but back-to-back 100-meter plus running games. He had 0 100-meter plus games between round 0 and 7, so 1 and 7, and then he's had back-to-back. So he's running the ball a ton more right now. Hasn't had the attacking stats the last fortnight, but I think against the Tigers that could potentially open up a little bit for Cam Munster. So I'll be keeping Munster in my team. I'll be starting him, and I'll probably be selling him right on round 12 because he's a guy who does have that nuclear upside. It's just we're not seeing those nuclear upside guys produce it. We're seeing random players pop off for 1 billion points instead this year, which is a bit bizarre. But hey, I'm going to give Cam Munster every chance to pop off for me and make up for those low scores he's had. Jerome Hughes is the other one to talk about here. Hughes was down a couple of times. And a couple of times he was down, he had that shoulder issue. Did not look like it was any better at all. The score was okay. He's sort of tracking towards 50, ended up a bit below that. I'm probably not going to say yes to buying Jerome Hughes. What's his price now? Because he was about 560 last week. Scored in the mid-40s. Down to a 544K. That injury is still a concern. I'm going to say no on this one. I'm going to say no. I think it's going to be round 13 that you buy him now. So he'll have a week off for the bye in round 12. You hope he comes back good in round 13. And hopefully between now and then we see him play fully fit and not look injured for game 2. So that's my view on Hughes. I think it's a wait, but if you do want to pot up, you can jump on early as well. Yeah, a few of you guys jumped on last week. Look, not a bad time. He's very cheap. He's going to be good. You just got to be patient there, I guess, if you do jump on. For the forward pack here, it's Okamanu not getting the minutes consistently enough. Eli Katoa around 13 could be an option, but until then I wouldn't do it. Loiero, I get asked about quite a bit. I'm just pretty easy no on Loiero. He's a risk of playing Origin. He did play Origin last year a little bit. Probably not going to, well, he's in that squad list, but he's not going to be in the team I wouldn't expect this year. But doesn't play around 12, not a consistent role in the team, not for me. And for the bench here, yeah, nothing to talk about. So any Storm questions before we roll in?
Yes, Harry Grant I think he's meant to be back this week, but he's not. And if he doesn't get picked for State of Origin, would you look to bring him in?
Harry Grant? No, because he will get picked for Origin. So, yeah.
And that's all for the Storm.
Easy. So, Tigers now. Dream Buller, we got Taruva, Dewey, Naden, Staines in the back line. We're looking at Galvin and Luai in the halves. And then we have Terrell May, Coruscant, Fanua Pole, Killer front row. They've been informed lately. Then Fainu, Seyfarth, and Twala in the back row. Interchange is Silver, Hunt, Bird, and Fainu. So, for the Tigers, I mean, there's not that much to talk about here. Like, Luai's getting cheap, but he hasn't sort of shown that sign of a bounce back yet. It's talk he'll make Origin, in spite of the fact that I think Cleary and Moses should be the guys, but a bit of chat, he'll make it. Galvin was quiet last week too. Buller had that full field try that boosted up his score artificially. They don't play round 12, so I'm not really forcing any of these guys in. Then for the forward pack here, Terrell May up against the Storm is not a bad matchup. It's not the best matchup. It's not a bad matchup, though. When you look at Terrell May against the Storm, you sort of think, all right, the Storm probably win this game, but they've been struggling a bit lately, and their middle forward rotation isn't super, super elite. So I think there's going to be space for Terrell May. You also throw in the fact that it's a 2 p.m. game. Tigers likely will be playing from behind, so I think we're going to see a few offloads from him. I just think this is one of those games where Terrell May could just quietly get himself up to 90-odd points. So I'm probably sticking the captain on Terrell May this week, just on initial read. But I really want to caveat this with the fact that I do about 10% of my captain analysis on Tuesday. I do about 80% of it on Thursday. So I might change my mind completely. But the initial feel for me is that it's probably Terrell May for me. But, man, Payne Haas, Terrell May, Nathan Cleary, they all have good matchups this week in different ways. So really, trust your gut is my key piece of advice here. I don't think anyone, I've looked at everyone else's, the other podcasts and other players and all that. No one's nailed this every week, right? I'm trying to study it up and find a correlation here that we can use. But from my view, Terrell May in a day game is the best one I've found so far. Nathan's mentioned it. Yeah, Terrell to go 2 million. Hopefully he pops off 200 points at least. That'd be red hot. For the rest of the Tigers team, if you have Seyfarth still, he's motoring along all right, but doesn't play round 12, so you're probably selling him pretty soon. You're not buying Seyfarth, of course. So, yeah, I would be open to selling him for sure. And then any other Tigers questions here?
Yes, we do. What would he do with Adam Dwayhe if you bought him in round 7?
Sell. Yeah, sell doesn't play round 12. Yep.
And then how about Lachlan Galvin? Would you look to bring him in?
If you got cheaper, around round 13, we could look at that. The issue is he'll pick up Parramatta's by schedule at that point when he goes to the Eels. So that's wishful thinking, by the way, guys. Yeah, I wouldn't be targeting Galvin. That 35 was not great. He's just not an elite fantasy scorer. So all that uncertainty off the field plus that, just not for me.
And he was a late out last week. Stafford Toa, would you look to move him on?
Is he on the extended bench? Because, he's not even on the extended bench. Yeah, I would sell him for sure. Unless the loophole benefits you, but you got a lot of red hot dots this week, so you don't need to. So, yeah, sell Stafford Toa for sure. Now, rolling through to the final game of the round, then we'll go into a bit of trade chat, a bit of trade questions. So keep those trade questions loaded and ready, guys, before we go into them. But Seagulls and Sharks, actually, this is a cracker set of team lists here because there's an option here that I was not considering at all and now am very strongly. So for the Seagulls, at fullback, Big Bad Tommy Turbo, pod alert. Jason Saab, Kohler, Garrick, and Hopewadi in the back line. Brooks, Cherry Evans in the halves. Jake Trbojevic goes to prop. We talked about this a few weeks ago as a possibility. I'm actually stoked that it happened because I think it's a good move for Manly. And I think this opens up their attack a bit more through the middle too. So very, very interesting. Then we've got Simpkin at hooker, Tekiaho in the front row, Ola Kawatu, Ben Trbojevic, and Jazz Tavanga. Pod alert, Jazz Tavanga in the lock spot. Tommy Talau, Waddell, Bullimore, and Brown on the bench. Now, this is very interesting. So when we talk about Aaron Clark is super, super safe and a very solid option. Jazz Tavanga is the insane, wild pod version of Aaron Clark, right? And a lot cheaper. So for Jazz Tavanga, let me just quickly get his exact price here because I thought this was a possibility and I've been campaigning for this, but I didn't expect it to happen. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where I was thinking, like, I hope that happens. It happened. So Jazz Tavanga, 366K. He's priced at a 27. His numbers at lock, so he's played a couple of games at lock now. He scored that 38 in 70 minutes. Which is not ideal, 6 missed tackles, and had the 61 the week before. Just going to get his numbers up here for myself here, but his lock average, when he plays over, let's say over 50 minutes at lock, he averages 58 points in 61 minutes.
Wow.
That is absurd. 58 and 61 minutes. Can he play 61 minutes is the question there. I think it's a reasonable possibility. I'll also shout out the fact that a lot of these numbers are pretty recent, right? So this is between 2019 and 2023, other than the stuff this year. If we go back to the 2023 season, which is most recent, just to see if that recently holds up, it's a 52 average. And we go to 2022, it's 53. It was a bit higher in his early career. 2021 was a 63, for example. And 2020, 58. So, look, he's pumping out some big numbers at lock, Jazz Tavanga, and he's got some big upside in terms of offload ability. Manly are very much struggling through the middle forward rotation as well. So we're seeing like Bullimore get more minutes, but he's going to have to spell Takiaho. Nathan Brown comes on. He's a very straight up and down runner too. I think Jazz Tavanga adds something different to their rotations. You also throw in the fact that Jazz is the backup hooker as well. So as much as he hasn't been scoring well at hooker, he could potentially play some minutes at that hooker spot too. So, Jazz Tavanga is a scorching hot option. You then throw in the fact that Manly play all the major buy rounds. So we've been looking for a reason to buy a Manly player. This might be that reason. Now, Jake Simpkin, I'll just talk about him as well because let's just go through his numbers here. Let me just get him because he's priced at a 35. So you're wanting about 45 production from him. Let's go minutes over 60. So when he plays 60-plus minutes, starts at hooker, it's a 44 average. So you're looking at about 10 points of value there. When he plays 70-plus minutes, it's a 48 average. So if you think that this team is going to stay exactly like this, then Simpkin is actually a great buy as well. Covers all the major buy rounds for hooker. If you don't already have Riley Smith, because it would be a waste to have two hookers around 12. But if you don't have Riley Smith, Simpkin could be a pod you look at. You're relying on this being the team configuration, though, and them sticking with this, which is a bit of a tricky one to back because they haven't done this before. But Simpkin's on my radar for sure. I'll definitely keep an eye on him and see what happens. Yeah, it's going to be it's very interesting. So Jazz Tavanga is probably the go, though, because Tavanga has that middle and hooker duel. So I'm red hot on Jazz Tavanga. Now, quick question coming through, Tavanga versus Riley Smith. I think it's a case of Tavanga has the higher fantasy production. Riley Smith has better job security. So do you want that high upside or do you want that job security? Tavanga also has a better origin schedule as well and dual position. So I'd probably be going Jazz out of the two because I think he can absolutely smash and grab some big points and big cash here. Tommy Turbo is the other guy to talk about here. So for Trbojevic, let me just grab his price too because they've had the buy, so they fall off your radar a bit. But Tommy Turbo is down at a 552K price point. He is priced at a 40. His break even is a 66. Now, we've seen him pump out a 50 average many, many times. I would give him a week, personally, and just wait and see what the origin team is, because if Turbo plays well, there's every chance he plays himself into the origin picture. But if he doesn't make origin, then the pod play on Turbo could be absolutely enormous. But he could play origin. So I'm going to say no. The Sharks matchup isn't appealing enough for me to overlook that. If you had the Titans this week or something, I'd think about it. But I'm going to say wait a week on Turbo, but keep him very firmly in your plans and in your hearts. Now, that's what I'm thinking about him. But Jazz Tavanga that's the really interesting one. That's really thrown a massive curveball in. Any other questions here for Manly?
No, it's Turbo and Jazz, and you've nailed them.
Okay. I mean, Ruben Garrick, probably the other one to mention there.
Yes. A couple of questions. Would you look to hold Garrick?
Oh, my God, yes. What are we talking about selling Garrick for? Yeah, we're holding Garrick. So I think Garrick's actually a potential buy option. The wing fullback center dual position is fantastic. I'd probably this is controversial. This is extremely controversial. I would go Garrick over Carras. And without really losing any sleep over it, I would go Garrick over Carras right now. Just because he plays all the major bye rounds just like Carras does, has basically zero chance of making Origin. And goal kicks in a Manly side who, they've been a bit hit and miss, but they're going to be chasing points through the Origin period. So, yeah, Garrick is probably one of my favorite options at that center spot. With that dual position, it gives you a lot of flexibility. I think he's a red-hot option. But, Turbo is a bit more exciting and more fun with the upside there. So, just risky with the Origin and injury history. So that's where I'm sitting on Manly. And then Sharkies, and then we'll go to trade questions. For Sharkies, it's Kennedy at fullback. We've got Stone Street, Ramian, Iro, Mulatalo in the back line, Trindle Hines in the halves. Then we go through to Fanua, Blake, Brayley, Kafusi in the front row, Nakora, Burns, and McInnes in the back row. And then Atkinson. How is this pronounced? Colquhoun?
Colquhoun,
yeah. Colquhoun, and then Hamlin, Uele, and Hazleton on the bench. Now, a lot of middle forwards on that bench, so it has meant a few less minutes for Fanua Blake in recent weeks. So that's a bit of a concerning one there. If you don't have Fanua Blake, I still think he's a great target for round 12, but just give him a couple of weeks. He seems to be dropping a little bit of cash. He had a weird game last week where they pumped Parramatta, so I had to watch Para lose, but I also had to watch my new buy Fanua Blake have 0 tackle breaks and 0 offloads in a game. So best of both worlds there, which was a tough watch. But yeah, great option to look at for future weeks. Just don't rush him in. A few people asking about Britton Nakora as well. Yeah, Loza, saw that shout out. Good to meet you, Loza, too, by the way. Loza was down at the brewery event that we ran on Saturday. So great to meet you, bro. But yeah, Nakora, you're really betting on Cronulla getting hot. That's the big bet there. And look, they don't have a lot of guys playing Origin, so could be a great option. Yeah, he's a guy that we'll definitely look at some point. If you think this is the matchup for it, then I don't mind it. I think he's up against Burbo I'm just trying to think how it plays out. Yeah, because they're both right side, Olakawatsu and Nakora, yeah. So he'll be up against Burbo, which is not a bad matchup. I don't mind Nakora as a pod if you want to jump on that. He hasn't shown much this year, but could easily bounce back. Then for the back line here, I mean, Kale Iro, he's solid, but not someone I'm targeting compared to the other centers. So I like Dylan Lucas a lot better. I like, Herbie Farmworth a lot better. I think go those ways instead. Rest of the back line, no interest there. Nico Hines is pumping out some pretty good numbers. He's been going. Yeah, he's been going all right. Sort of 55 to 60 he's been floating around. Hasn't really rediscovered that running game yet. If he can rediscover that running game, he'll be unstoppable. And I think he's going to see Origin, maybe get a bit fired up. So I bought Hines a few weeks ago, and I'm a fan of him. Just don't buy him if you already have 2 halves for round 12, because it's a bit of a waste. And you're going to be really frustrated that week when you're missing players in certain positions, but you can only play 2 halves because you can only play starting 13 that week. Then for the forward pack here, yeah, we talked about Fanua Blake, we talked about Nakora. Cam McInnes is probably the other guy to talk about here. Grabbed the try in that last game. Yeah, he's a juicy pod, but he is an Origin risk, like just a little Origin risk, right? Because he's the kind of guy who, the commentators are always talking about as being made for Origin, and that could potentially sneak him in there. So just keep an eye on that. He might be a guy they think about. I think he's too similar to Connor Watson in terms of the role he plays, so I think he's unlikely to make the team. But he is a guy you could keep, an eye on as a potential option there. Probably wait for round 12 is my advice on McInnes. Then the bench, nothing really to talk about there. So any other Sharkies questions?
Yes, there is a nice, with the hooker options we have, Blake Brayley. Would you look to get him in maybe round 13?
Brails, no. I'd probably go Jazz Tavanga over Brayley, or Riley Smith isn't that far behind Brayley. He's a bit behind, but he's not that far behind considering the price difference. I'd probably go a bit cheaper at hooker. I just don't think paying up for these guys is worth it.
And then Billy Burns. I know Wilton's, 2 weeks, 1 week away maybe. Is it too late for Billy Burns?
Way too late, yep. Firmly far too late.
And that's all the questions for the Sharks.
Cool. We'll fire through, guys. Any trade questions? We'll hit a couple of those, and then we'll finish up, and then I'll have to jump and record buy, hold, sell, and do the other videos there. So let's see what trades we've got coming through. I'll just answer John's quickly while we wait for those. Who am I buying this week? I'm looking closely at a few guys. Jazz Tavanga is now in the picture for me. Then I've got a few other guys to talk about. Who else did I have? Let me just check my trades here. Tarpanay I'm thinking about. Dylan Lucas I'm very, very keen on. Lucas up against the Titans I think is a red-hot option. But, there's a lot of good options for this week. Now, throw it at me, Monty. What do we got?
Alrighty, Lewis asks, Stafford Toller to Lucas and Mamazelles to Smith or Jazz?
Stafford to Lucas is fantastic. Mamazelles to Jazz or Smith. It's really your call, right? So it's risk versus reward for these two. Risk versus reward on Smith and Jazz. Do you want the safety of Riley Smith, good job security, or do you want Jazz Tavanga's upside in terms of fantasy production? Only you can make that call for your team.
And then we have John asks, Mamazelles to Tavanga and Preston to Jaden Campbell.
I hope Preston gets off.
Yeah.
I'm still praying for that. I think it might happen, but it's very unlikely. These are good trades. It's probably a little bit early to go to Campbell, but I'm not going to talk you out of these trades. I think they're pretty hot.
And then Noah asks, thoughts on Mamazelles, Sandon Smith, and Preston to Clark or Tavanga, King Togia, and Tarpanay.
Yeah, these are solid trades. They're all guys I'm happy to sell. Clark or Tavanga is an interesting toss-up. Again, it's the safety of Clark or the risk and upside of Tavanga. Only you can make that call, but I'm going to say yes to this trade with that variation in mind.
Edward asks, Purdue to Lucas.
Yeah. I think, if you can get Lucas, you get Lucas. And if this is the way you do it, that's okay. Purdue does have a great origin schedule, though. So personally, I'm going to be holding on to Purdue. But if this is the way you get to Lucas, then I'm not going to talk you out of it.
Now, Jared asks, Mamazelles to Ponga or Turbo?
Oh, I mean, Ponga probably plays Origin, and Turbo probably doesn't. So if I was choosing between these two, I'd probably go Turbo. But Ponga will outscore Turbo this week against the Titans, is my view. So probably neither, but Turbo out of those two.
Nathan asks, Fafita to Sharp, Mamazelles to Jazz, Jazz, and then Katonga to Preston or Thermal.
Well, probably not Preston because he's probably out this week. But, Fafita to Sharp, yes. Mamazelles to Jazz, yes. If you can go Katonga to Lucas instead of those two, that would be even better. But if you already own Lucas, then I'd go Firmer instead, yeah. By the way, if Preston gets off, then go Preston instead. But we need to wait and see what happens there.
Then John asks, would you buy Garrick or Olakawatu if you had the choice of one of them?
Garrick, the positional value is much higher. Dual position, covers those 5 spots in your back line, gives you a lot of flexibility.
Noah asks, Mamazelles, Sandon Smith, and Nwangani Tawaze to Karaz, Humphreys, and King Togia.
Chris Humphreys, King Togia. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of upside there in those trades. I wouldn't be selling Nwangani Tawaze, though, personally. So I would find another sell instead of Nwangani Tawaze, but I think the buys are reasonable, yeah.
And then Payne Haas wants to trade as well, by the looks of it.
Oh, hey, Payne.
So Payne Haas wants to know, Mamazelles to Tavanga, Tuavadi to King Togia, and Brimson to Preston or Tarpany if he's suspended.
Ooh. So Mamazelles to Tavanga is fine. Tuavidi to King Togia is fine as well. Brimson to Preston, Tarpany. Yeah. These are all good. Yeah, I like those trades.
And then Trey asks, Horsburgh to Ikatoa or Herbie.
Depends what you need positionally. If you've already got 2 halves for round 12, then go Herbie. If you've already got a stacked center pairing for round 12, go Katoa instead. But they're both good options.
And then Liam asks, is a good question, play Jenkins or trade Hubner or Jenkins to Sharp?
Ooh, play Jenkins or trade Hubner or Jenkins to Sharp. You probably, Jenkins to Sharp, I can't say no to that. I'm a whole Jenkins guy. I think he's got a bit of game, but you go Jenkins to Sharp if you can do that, yeah. And Hubner's starting at lock, so you probably keep Hubner instead. So I would say yes, Jenkins to Sharp.
And then Noah's having the issue, as most people do, plenty of Roosters in their teams. Who are the 2 players you'd sell out of Nwangani Tawaze, Toya, Savala, and Sandon Smith?
So Sandon, for sure. And then probably no one. I wouldn't sell the other 3. Noah, Toya, Savala, they're all holds. So sell one of the other guys you have injured instead.
And Steve asks, Holsborough to Kai Pearce-Paul or Nicholson?
I'd go Pearce-Paul just because you're a bit late on Nicholson. You might as well go a bit different. Pearce-Paul has a good matchup against the Titans this week too, so potential for attacking upside.
And Charlie asks, Munster to Metcalf.
If you're a Metcalf believer, maybe. You sort of need Metcalf to pump out like a 55-plus average for the rest of the year for this to be worthwhile. He's also in the half spot. You might have 2 halves already, so it might not help you in round 12. I'm going to say probably not unless you think Metcalf is the next coming of Nathan Cleary.
And then Sam asks this, Garrick, Drinkwater, and I'm going to add in Carraz as well out of those 3.
Where do you lean?
I'd lean to I've got Drinkwater.
Yep.
I own him, but as of right now, I've got Garrick, Drinkwater, and Carraz. If there was no origin for Carraz, he'd be number 1.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Garrick has a great schedule, so not a bad option at all. Being a bit disregarded. Drinkwater is goal kicking, so that helps. He's probably about 5 points better than Garrick as a player. And Carraz, a bit overhyped right now, actually, I reckon, which, I was hyping him last week, but I think right now he's getting a little overhyped. And he's playing too well in real life, big origin risk. So I would probably go Garrick as the safe option or Drinkwater as the really fun nuclear option.
And would you look to move on Wong to Preston if Preston is all good after?
Probably not. I think Wong's good. Like Wong's playing close to 80 minutes, so you stick with him. And three more questions and we'll jump.
Righty. Tim asks, Mamazelis to King Togia, Fafita to Lucas, and then Stafford Toa to Campbell or Garrick.
Oh, yes, and yeah, these are good trades. Yeah, Campbell or Garrick, it's kind of your call between those two. Campbell's the better scorer, but Garrick has that great origin schedule, so I'm going to say yes to these trades.
Is Cleary a trade with the Panthers by next weekend?
After this week, potentially, yeah. But you want to make sure he makes origin. Like he's probably going to make origin, but Moses and Luai were good last year, so he's not guaranteed to make origin. So I would hold Cleary right up until round 12 just to make sure, because if he doesn't make origin, then you'll be buying him right back and it'll be brutal.
Robin asks, Mamazelis to Tavanga, Iongi to Lucas, and Duffy to, I assume, Jacob Saifidi.
These are fantastic trades. You've cleared out the dead weight and you've brought in 3 absolute weapons. So, yep, do those trades.
And then final question, Jacob asks, who do we support, Blues or Maroons?
Up the Blues, mate.
Blues all day.
Yeah.
Blues all day.
Yeah, Blues are getting up. If the Blues pick the right team, they're clean sweeping this year. That's my view. But hey, don't shoot the messenger. If you're a Queenslander, you should just take that as a sign that you're going to win. Because remember the worst ever Origin team? They beat us.
That one.
Yeah.
Corey Allen, Edric Lee, Phil Sami. Oh.
Yeah. So, Queensland just gets it. But, yeah. Anyway, that's us done and dusted with the trade advice, guys. Just quickly, too, I want to hit this as well. If you guys haven't joined already, it's in the description here. The Discord is sweet. It's pretty great. Now, this is the Discord server. If you jump in, there's heaps of sections, but heaps of options for like trade talk, all this sort of chat about players, injury updates are in here as well. So like injuries, suspensions, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's just asking for the update, but eventually it will come through there. So if you guys do want to jump on the Discord, it's in the description here. It's a great spot, about 3,000 fantasy coaches in there. So check it out. I'll see you guys there. And good luck this week, guys. Jumping off to do buy, hold, sell. That comes out at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Discord link is in the description of this video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Best of luck this week. Peace out and up the Eels.